Hello. What's up, everybody? Thank you for coming today. My name is James, for those of you guys who don't know me. I'm just gonna go through a number of topics for you guys today, try to give you as much value as I can in this short period of time. We'll be using primarily the chat in Discord, so if you guys have questions, you can post them in there. I have a lot of content that I want to get through with you guys today, so probably we will stop for questions at the end. But if you have something that you feel is really important, just like put some emojis or something and I will notice it and maybe we'll stop. But yeah, as I said, I'm trying to give you guys as much value as I can in these like 45 minutes. So my name is James, and for you guys who don't know me, I've been a mindset performance coach since 2016. I've worked with over 500 poker players. Unique thing about me is I've worked with players from all around the world. Like at any given time, if you looked at my coaching roster, it's, we got 15, 20 different passports on there. So I think that's pretty cool. I worked with a lot of guys speak English as a second language, and I've also lived in a lot of places all over the world. So I have a lot in common with poker players from many different areas. Myself, I've been a poker pro since 2009. I was a Supernova Elite. Before that, I was like a sit and go grinder on Full Tilt. And I'm currently the CEO and head coach of PokerSpirit, which is a poker staking team for PLO5. So that's enough about me. Probably more important than about me is who I've worked with, because, and you guys are looking at a coach and trying to learn from somebody, you want to know, why is this relevant for me? These are some of the guys that I've worked with one-on-one. You'll notice Casper, who I believe is a pretty prominent figure in the Pre-Flop Academy community. You'll see Dietrich Fast, you'll see Jungleman, and you'll see Sam. Sam's one of the top tournament players in the world. And yeah, these are just some of the people that I've worked with. I've worked with people from all different levels, and quite proud also that I've trained a team of coaches who also work with guys at a variety of levels now. We've worked with stables, we've worked with Poker, we've worked with BitB staking, and now primarily with PokerSpirit, which is our stable. See, we got some guys joining in late. Welcome. So we're just going to keep moving for you guys because I want to make sure that we get today's goal. So today's goal, what I'm trying to do for you guys today, is to distill down from 500 people I've worked with, several different stables I've worked at. What are the key things that if you change, if you're not doing these things and you start doing them, or you're already implementing them and you do them better, they will make a big difference in your lifestyle as a professional poker player. So I'm trying to give you guys the highest ROI items from my pretty big wealth of experience coaching poker players. And each of these topics could be an individual presentation in itself. Like you could spend 45 minutes on sleep. You could spend 45 minutes on tilt. We're not going to today. I'm going to try to give you guys what we call it the 80-20, the high level overview of what you can do and make sure you're doing well to make an impact. And each of these are things that you could geek out on independently if you recognize like, oh man, that's an area I really struggle with. But today I'm not going to be able to give everything the detail it might deserve, but I will try to give you guys takeaways that are simple to implement and that will get you immediate results. So that's the goal. You guys are free to hold me to it. Let's see what's in the chat. Okay. So yeah, all the strategies and all the things I'm teaching you guys today are things that have been tested with some of the top teams in the world. They were used at BitB with the tournament players there. They've been used in my team, which has made 1.3 million in the last 6 months. And they've also been used by other stables such as Poker. They've been used by high-level players who play super high rollers. These are not things, pulled from the ether. These are things with real data to back them up. Like these things matter and these things work. They're also going to be simple and hopefully get you guys some immediate results. So let's take it on through. The 5 essential pillars for elite performance. And that's really what we're trying to focus on here is we're trying to go from good to great. I really want to help you guys see where you can actually get to in your career. I think a lot of people get very pessimistic about poker because of the climate and, oh, new software's coming out and games are getting tougher and this kind of thing. And they kind of forget to really believe in themselves and really take the approach that's going to give them the best shot at success. And elite performance is still possible. I mean, elite performance still happens, and it still happens with people. Like there is someone who's not playing poker yet who will become a high stakes crusher. So keep those things in mind and recognize that until you're doing everything you can be doing to get to the level you want to get to, don't be too quick to rule it out for yourself. Because often what separates someone who really gets phenomenal results from someone who doesn't is the fact that nobody told them they can, and they believe they can, and they put in the work, and that's what happens, you know. Poker players are lazy. A lot of people, they don't apply themselves. So don't get discouraged, and keep in mind that if you are doing all the things, you're attending mindset webinars on a Wednesday, you know, like you're not the average poker player. You're someone who's hungry to actually perform. And if you put these things in, you can do so. So each of these has its own set of slides, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but we got a circle of control, we got sleep, we got tilt, we have changing limiting beliefs, and then we have routines and schedules, which I promise you is more fun than it seems. So this is the first key point. And I don't know if you guys can see here at the top, it says no control out in the white area. And I'm going to hide these meeting controls. Yeah, okay. So at the very top, no control. In the like interior circle, these are the things you can influence. And in the circle in the center, in the smallest area, these are the things that are within your control. There's a reason I'm putting this first. If you take nothing away from this presentation, besides this image and what it means, what it represents, it will already make an immediate and powerful difference for you in your life and in your career. In my team, it's become almost like a meme to share, you know, circle of control, focus on what you can control, because so often when you're experiencing a problem, if you distill it down, it's like your focus is on something that you can't control, and that's making you unhappy. And as soon as you sort of bring that focus back and put it on something that's within your control, it changes everything. So, I mean, simple example, poker player is feeling upset because they, oh, sorry, I'm just reading the notes a second. Okay. Sorry, guys, I've been informed that the chat should be in the ongoing webinar section. I'm a fish. I gotta try to find that. So bear with me for a second. Somebody want to at me in it? Somebody want to? Okay, there we go. Now I'm in the right chat. Sorry, guys. All right, we here. We good. Okay, so back to the circle of control. This is something that I learned from one of my earliest mentors, and it made a magnificent difference in my life. And it's something that for poker players, it's just really, really huge. You know, it's very easy to focus on, you know, short-term variance and feel really down and really dejected. But like, in the end of the day, variance will come and variance will go. You'll experience hot streaks, you'll experience cold streaks, and how much you improve over that time frame is what's going to matter. So what's directly inside of your circle of control is how much study you do, how many webinars you attend, how much time you spend with Pre-Flop Academy, you know, drilling the spots where you're weakest, like how much time you spend doing things that move the needle. Now, there's other things inside your circle of influence, and these are things that, like, what you do, your actions can improve, but you can't directly control the outcome. And this is something to spend kind of limited effort on, if that makes sense. Like, ideally, when your efforts are on the things that are within your control, you're getting a one-to-one return on investment. Like, all your time is going directly to something that you can actually affect and change. Now, when it's your influence, it means there's many outside factors. And, you know, playing tournament poker is one of these situations. Like, there's variance, there's other players, how they're playing their range. So focusing on what you can control is learning your ranges at different stack sizes, learning how your strategy works. Then what's in your influence is how well you do, because you've done all the things in your control to have a good strategy. But we all know you can play really well and have a losing day, and simultaneously, well, not simultaneously, but conversely, you can play poorly and be lucky. So our results in the short term, at least, are within our influence, but our results in a longer term are within our control. And generally, when players are, you know, drilling into their shark scope, you know, 7 graphs deep and feeling down about why they can't beat some specific tournament, it's like they're focused on the wrong things. And to illuminate this just a little bit further, you probably know people in your life who focus on things outside of their control that are disempowering. If you watch the news is a lot of fear and sort of outrage porn. It makes you feel things that aren't good. And this is by design. It keeps people tuning in. It keeps people like paying attention to a lot of this stuff, but it's not really things that will generally make those people's lives better. So when you
think about situations going on in the world that might be tragic, might be horrible, like what's going on in Iran, what's going on in Ukraine. These are situations that are very much not in your control, but they might be in your influence. So perhaps you want to donate some money. That might be a useful way of putting some effort towards something you believe in that's within your influence. But that's going to be a lot better than doom scrolling Twitter every night for 45 minutes, reading up on all the latest developments that might make you feel disempowered, helpless, like the world is a terrible place. So being aware that like very few things are inside of your circle of control, but those are the most important things. And then inside your circle of influence is a lot of things that are bigger than you. And if you can only influence it, don't let it take over your life. And then for things that are no control, don't care. And if you can develop this technique, like remember, oh, that's not inside of my circle of control, so I'm just not going to care about it. You stop getting angry and mad and upset about things that you can't do anything about. You stop getting mad that you got 3 outer because, not in my circle. So why would I put my attention there? Does that make sense? If you guys are with me, if that makes sense to you guys, drop a emoji of your choosing in the chat, please. Awesome. So the way attention works is it's sort of like a flashlight. You can shine your attention on different things, and certain things pull your attention, and your attention can only be in one place at the same time. So when you put your attention outside of things inside your circle of control, you're not able to do the work that's going to improve your life situation because you're focusing on things you cannot change, and your energy is going toward things that you cannot change. And that's why in the event of things that are much bigger than you, but that you care about, doing something sensible, like, okay, I can't change this, but I can make an impact. I'll make a donation, or I'll share something, or I'll do some concerted effort for that, but then I'll move on and I'll focus on things inside my circle of control because I know that's where my responsibility lies. So I could talk about this endlessly, but I won't. I have more things to share with you guys. This is the actual meme that was shared inside my team. Worry about things you can control or draw 25, like from an Uno game. And you see the stoic philosopher face there. I just kind of like, it becomes like a fun way of reminding each other, like in your community, if somebody's talking about something that's like negatively affecting their life, like, hey, is that something you can control? And they're like, no. Then you know what to do. It's like, let it go, right? Because if you can't control it, you can't change it, you might as well focus on things that you can. Because if you focus on the things you can control, life gets better. And I know this seems like a very simple point, and it sort of is. The reason I'm spending this much time on it is because if it's not common practice in your life, even though it's common sense, it's not going to make the difference for you. It's really important to be able to come back to this simple concept and remind yourself, like, control or no control. It can actually even help if you're feeling like there's a lot of stuff going on in your life or you're overwhelmed, to take a diagram like this and draw it on a sheet of paper. Big circle, little circle, small circle, and like start putting the things in your life where they belong. And the most important area, of course, would be that center circle, the things you can control, because those are the things where you should be spending the most time. Okay, number 2, we're going to talk about sleep. Now, as I said, sleep could be its own presentation in itself, right? You could do 45 minutes on sleep very easily. What I want to kind of communicate to you guys today is that athletes know they have to care about sleep, right? They exercise, they know their muscles have to recover, their muscles are broken down in training. If they don't sleep well, they can't perform. I would encourage you to think of yourself as a poker athlete. Whatever your goals are, whatever your current level is, if you're spending enough time to be on this webinar, you owe it to yourself to treat yourself like a mental athlete. Now, there's different ways that becomes significant. So like, for example, if you're not having a bedtime at a regular hour, if you're sometimes going to bed at 4 a.m., sometimes trying to go to bed at midnight, if you're drinking alcohol late in the evening or eating right before bed, all of these things affect your sleep negatively. There's like a whole list of things that affect your sleep negatively or positively. I can rattle off some for you guys if you want. Sleeping in a dark room is helpful. Having pitch black in the room or using an eye mask is helpful. Not eating and drinking alcohol before bed is helpful. All of these things make a difference, right? If you don't take care of your sleep, then it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot and trying to run a race. When you sleep well, when your mind is recovered, you're going to be way more effective at all the work that goes into being an elite level poker player. And if you remember the promise at the beginning, we're trying to help you get from good to great. And in order to get from good to great, you've got to start treating yourself like a real pro. So one of the things that poker players struggle with the most when it comes to sleep is they get into this state that I call wired and tired. It's like you play a long session, especially tournaments, your session ends, and you've been clicking and making decisions and bouncing your attention around for 12 hours. And now it's late, especially if you live in Europe, it might be like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. It's time to go to bed, but your mind is like, let's dance. This is going to be a problem for you. So one of the reasons this happens is because your brain has different brainwave states. And when you play poker, your brain is in what's called a beta brainwave state. Think about a car being in like fifth gear on the highway. It's going fast. And to sleep, you need to bring your brain through all the levels down, like from beta to alpha to theta, and eventually to delta to get that deep sleep. So it's like you're trying to park a car while driving on the highway. It's not going to work. And when we are not conscious, what we do is we give ourselves something to focus on. Our brain stays active and we're like, oh, okay, I'll just watch a series, or I'll watch a poker training video, or I'll keep checking stuff on the computer. And this is not going to help you get to sleep, because the problem is that your brain is still in high gear. So this is why I put down brain waves. It's just one way, but I find it very effective, of relaxing your brain. Especially if you live in Europe and you play tournaments, you owe it to yourself to, at the end of your session, okay, my only goal is to chill out, calm down, and get to sleep at a reasonable time. You can do that by putting on a pair of headphones and just tuning into some binaural beats and selecting the deep sleep or relax. It's very passive. You don't have to do anything. You just put it on and it's going to guide your brain into a different state than it's in when you're computing and calculating. This for me has been a game changer. I track my sleep with a Whoop and I get 23% more REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement sleep, when I do this, which is a pretty huge difference. Most of the time when you track something, it makes a 2% improvement. 23% is massive. So one thing I would encourage you to do is actually consider getting something like this. I like the Whoop tracker personally. There's others like Oura Ring or whatever. But once you start tracking your sleep and you see oh, I slept well, or oh, I slept poorly, you want to do better, and that's natural. And when you sleep better, as I said, you're going to perform better. So it'll motivate you to do all the things that you should do anyway, but maybe your motivation isn't high enough, like avoiding alcohol in the evenings, avoiding late meals, this kind of thing. Another way to relax your body at the end of a poker session, oops, little spoiler. So when you're playing a poker session, you're going to become activated, your body is doing an intense activity. So your nervous system gets switched on. One of the ways you can relax your nervous system is by getting into your body, doing breathing exercises or doing stretching. There's a bunch of great programs. I like Yoga Body, which has a hip mobility program and a back, lower back program. If you sit for a long time playing tournaments, these things are going to make a big difference for you. A lot of the guys in my stable are doing these programs in 15 minutes a day, and it just helps your body to relax. When your body relaxes, your mind's going to relax. What most people don't realize, at the end of a poker session, their mind is very active. And as a result, they don't recognize they're breathing shallow. Their body is also tense. And the body being tense sort of keeps the mind feeling tense. And the mind feeling tense keeps active brain, which makes it hard to sleep. And finally, just having a post-session ritual for your sleep. So you finish the session, trying to do things the same way every time, because it's kind of hard to rely on yourself to have good habits when you're tired, when you're stressed. And this is when people start turning to drinking or smoking or whatever. And, if you set out for yourself, this is what I'm going to do at the end of my sessions, I'm going to put on the binaural beats, I'm going to, make myself a cup of chamomile tea, I'm going to dim the lights, and I'm going to get to sleep, it's going to make a big difference. And as I said, tracking that, you can actually see that for yourself. And that's what I recommend you to do. If you're taking your career, very seriously, I think it kind of owe it to yourself to get a sleep tracker and start putting data to it. So this here on the left, this 96% recovery, this is actually this past Monday. So this was the highest recovery I ever got after a Sunday session. Sunday session, you're playing from, in my time zone, like noon until 2 o'clock in the morning. For some of you guys, it might be, until 5 in the morning. And being able to get good sleep after that is pretty incredible. I know a lot of poker players struggle with this throughout their careers. And I just want to kind of share this with you guys to show you what's possible. Obviously, a lot of people, they don't want to wear a sleeping mask. They don't want to wear headphones. Like, it feels like a lot of stuff, right? But it's just about how seriously you want to take it and how much you want to gain an edge. So, if your sleep is already great, then maybe you don't have to worry about these things. But a lot of poker players do struggle with sleep, and there's a lot of tweaks that you can make, a lot of things that you can try to improve your sleep. And if you have the data that your sleep is not great, not where it needs to be, then I strongly encourage you to start experimenting to get it where it can be. I'll actually share with you guys something pretty funny. So I have these are sleep headphones. They're by a company called Cocoon. Now they're like earbuds. They don't make these anymore, but these are headphones that are comfortable enough for you to sleep in. I have a sleep mask. I mean, there's loads of them. Doesn't really matter the brand. It's just nice to have these pads so they're not right on top of your eye. And I even have, my girlfriend hates this, mouth tape. So this is a little bit ridiculous, but it's a piece of tape you stick over your mouth while you're sleeping. There's a company on Instagram called Hostage Tape. And this actually comes from James Nestor's book, Breath, which teaches how we breathe on a regular basis impacts like our nervous system activation, and mouth breathing lends itself to being in a higher state of stress, and breathing through the nose lowers your resting stress level. So a good way, like, because modern culture sort of has us very reactive and feeling stressed out, like, urgency culture, notification culture, like people feel stressed. If you can sleep with one of these pieces of tape on a few nights a week, you lock in getting like 8 hours of nasal breathing, which over time will actually lower your baseline stress levels and help you be physically better at handling stress. You can also do something similar, like if you go to the gym and you do cardio, you do cycling, you do spin class, keeping your mouth shut, whether just mentally reminding yourself, whether you want to tape it shut or whatever. Making a point of breathing through your nose while doing exercise is another great way to improve your control of your own autonomic nervous system. This is something Andrew Huberman, who I imagine a lot of you guys are familiar with, he has talked about on his podcast, is something that he personally does, going to the gym and exercising while doing nasal breathing. It's kind of funny. I mean, it's one of the things, it's going to be like the last point in the presentation. We can talk a little bit about community, but something you guys have to be aware of is like success. The easiest way to have good habits is to be in a community where other people have similar habits. And unfortunately, there's like a lot of toxic people in poker. There's a lot of people that if those are your friends in poker, if you hang out with 5 donkeys, you're probably going to be the 5th one. So it's really, really important who you spend your time with, like who your study partners are. And if there's people in your network who are, not encouraging you, not happy for your success, not supporting your goals, not trying to help you be better, you don't need those people. There's enough people that are like that. So just be careful, because it's very easy to like fall in with like just the people you've always been with. But if their goals, if their mindset around poker is that like, poker sucks and like it used to be better some years ago and so on and so forth, well, then you're not going to really overachieve your peer group too often. So just be careful about things like that. Really try to, spend time with people you'd want to spend time with, like in general. And, be the kind of person you want to have in your friend circle, and be aware that the habits of your friends are most likely going to be the easiest habits for you to hold as well. Yeah, the sleep app is Brain FM. It's great. There's other ones too. This is the one I use. I also use in Brain FM, they have a light work, which is they have deep work and light work settings. So when I play poker, if I find myself having struggle focusing, I'll put on the headphones and I'll put on like light work for infinity, so it'll just play continuously. And it's music that helps your mind sort of dial in. There's no words, there's no vocals. It's just sort of like beats that sort of help you to focus. I recommend to experiment with it. You might not find it good for you. You might find it great for you. I personally, I'll be like realize my focus is lagging a little bit, I'll put on headphones, I'll listen to this, I'll feel like dialed in. And then at some point I might realize, okay, it's too much, I don't need this, and take the headphones off. But I really like Brand FM, I think it's a great company. All right, how to transcend tilt. So third point in our presentation today is talking about dealing with emotions, right? So things happen in life, at the poker table, outside of the poker table, and they cause us to feel a certain way inside. And especially when we're really into like our computational brain, we're like making decisions at the poker table, we're like thinking about math and numbers and odds, we're not really aware of our emotions so much. We're not very good at recognizing, oh, I'm feeling disappointment, or I'm feeling, until it bubbles over. So what happens a lot of the time is we have an emotion that comes up, and we have a habit that happens sort of automatically to deal with that. It's usually a numbing out response. So a lot of people, for example, will eat when they feel lonely, angry, tilted, unable to sleep, whatever, because like they don't realize that's why they're doing it. They just sort of get up from the computer and they don't feel like particularly great, and they don't really know what the feeling is they have. They just feel sort of restless or whatever, and they go to the kitchen and maybe there's some food on the counter and they start picking it up and eating it. The number of players I've worked with, it's like at some point they're like, yeah, I have a tilt meal after this. After the end of my session, I'm like going to the kitchen and eating gummy bears or something. It's like high level players, and they're struggling with things like this because you don't recognize that you're having this nervous system activation, that you have this overactive brainwave pattern. And because you don't know how to calm it down, you've got these ways that you've sort of figured out work, like maybe it's drinking, maybe it's smoking, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's whatever, but these aren't ideal, right? These are not the ideal ways to like live your life. And when you're doing things because you need to, because you don't know how to deal with the feelings you have, that's never going to be a good foundation for conscious action. So that's why we kind of have two buttons here. We have the choice to numb out, which is sort of a maladaptive coping strategy. And then we have the choice of acceptance, which is basically recognizing like, yeah, okay, I feel whatever I feel. Maybe I feel disappointed, maybe I feel angry, maybe I feel restless, maybe I feel injustice, maybe I feel like life's not fair, maybe I feel down, maybe I feel depressed, whatever. Once you sort of recognize what you're feeling and you accept it, like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling this, you're able to start to feel better. You can say, okay, well, given that I'm feeling this way, what should I do? And you can make a conscious choice about what would be a helpful behavior to help yourself, recognizing the state that you're in and, whether or not you want to stay there. Does that make sense to you guys? This is also how sort of compound tilt happens, is like we start to get angry at the poker table, we don't recognize it, and we're starting to like push it down and like pretend that we're still playing fine, but we're actually starting to not play so well. And then we start to get tilted that we're tilted, because we're like trying to numb out and push away the sensations of being like a little bit upset. And then we're like mad that we're mad because we think we should have a perfect mindset. And then we're mad that we're mad that we're mad, and it starts to kind of spiral. So oftentimes, if you find yourself in that situation on like a Sunday, for example, where you've busted out of all the high stakes tournaments and you're probably going to have a losing day no matter what, like even if you win one of the tournaments on your screen, if you just recognize like, oh, I'm at that point, it doesn't feel that great, you will realize that by the next break, you feel fine. It's that resistance. It's that kind of not wanting to accept the way you feel that causes it to drag out for so long. You guys have probably heard the expression, what you resist persists before. And what you accept can help you find peace. So just recognizing, okay, yeah, probably not going to be a fantastic day today. No big deal. Let me just finish out strong anyway. And you take that pressure off yourself. You sort of allow life to be as it is. You accept the situation that's outside of your circle of control, because ultimately having a winning poker session as a tournament player is not in your circle of control. And that's an important thing to recognize. Yeah, tilt of tilt is, it comes down to almost perfectionism. So a lot of people believe they should already be perfect at everything. Their strategy should already be perfect. They shouldn't be making mistakes about, defending their big blind 1 pip too light or 1 pip too tight. People already think they should know the perfect ranges in every spot. So if you accidentally 3-bet a hand that should have been a flat, or flat a hand that should have been a 3-bet, like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. And if I get a little bit mad or a little bit disappointed, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I a fish? Why am I a recreational? Like, people are super hard on themselves. And then because of that, they like sort of don't want to acknowledge these things, right? They don't want to acknowledge when these things happen that weren't ideal, because the way they criticize themselves when they do is so like severe. And once you just kind of accept mistakes before they happen, you're like, yeah, I'm probably at times not going to have the perfect mindset. At times I'm going to feel upset. At times I'm going to have emotions I don't want. At times I'm going to make mistakes at the table. Now, when stuff happens, you just correct it and you don't waste time. A lot of people waste a lot of time not dealing with the stuff they should deal with and feeling guilt and shame and all these disempowering emotions when this stuff is happening. Whereas like, you just set all that aside, like, okay, I'm enough of this bullshit, you know? Okay, I defended my big blind a little bit too tight in that last tournament. Let me work on big blind defense. Let me put it into pre-flop academy, you know, test myself, different stack sizes, different ICM situations, and let me just drill this for like 45 minutes, 4 times this week. And that's how you actually solve the problem, you know, focusing on what's inside your circle of control. But a lot of people, like, instead of doing that, they just go lie on the couch for 2 hours and think about how they're a piece of shit, you know, like how, oh God, I'm such an idiot. It's like, those are moments of your life you don't get back. So I would recommend to just make peace with the mistakes that you're yet to make, because no matter how much you work on your mindset, no matter how much you work in your strategy, you're still going to make mistakes. But if you get over this whole, like, you know, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? Like, how hard should I be on myself kind of nonsense? You can just do the effective work to improve the areas where you're weak. I'm not familiar with this article, but definitely unlearning perfectionism is something I'd be very much on board on. All right, so just kind of going back to tilt. And you can think of tilt, it's not just anything that throws your mind off, but also things that throw your body off, right? I mean, tilt comes from the expression that when people get really mad at pinball, they would physically try to tilt the machine to get the ball to go in the hole, right? So tilt is like being off of center, you know? And if you're normally pretty calm and your mind is in a pretty good way and you're relaxed, anything that either makes your mind start going nuts or your body start, like, you know, hyperventilating and sweating, you could call this a form of tilt. And very often one comes with the other. Like if your mind is in a dark place, probably your breathing is shallow. You might want to check. If your body is like, you know, stressed out, probably your thoughts aren't good. So kind of like learning that the body and the mind generally go together and dealing with them together as well. So we have a trigger. The trigger can be, we played all day and our session didn't go great. It can be, we played all day and it went good, but we're still really awake. It can be whatever, right? But you're in some situation. You just got 3-outed. Some guy dropped an emoji on you as he sucked out. I don't know. Somebody threw the punching gloves on VG at you, whatever it is, right? So something happens and you start to have a familiar response, a response that you've trained. You've done it so many times, it's easy. And it just happens. Like, you know, lose a big pot, 18 left in a tournament, angry, right? The conditioned response is so automatic, it's already happened. Now, what we can do is we can start to interject awareness into this little loop. When you do that, the same trigger will happen. But because of the heightened awareness, instead of just like being angry, it's like a level back. It's like, I notice that I'm feeling angry. I notice there's like a common habit to be angry now. It's like I can see myself having the emotion, or I can see myself thinking the negative things. When you have low awareness, which, you know, for a lot of people is their default state, you just feel the things. There's no shame in that. Like if you want to improve your awareness, it takes effort, right? Like this is why we teach people to meditate. This is why we recommend people to journal. We recommend people to write down the things they want to improve in their life, right? You start writing down things that happen at the end of your session, like how you felt, keeping a notepad, like, you know, whatever it is that you want to work on. Then when those situations happen at the table, there's way more awareness because you've actually like, thought about it away from the table. So now you're at the table and you lose that pot with 15 left or whatever. And you're like, okay, this is that spot where I usually start to pity myself and start to tell a story that this will always happen. And okay, I'm in that familiar place again. But you're like, it's like you're awake in a dream. because you're not already angry and punching the desk and like having a pity party. Instead, you're like aware that that's what you'd usually do. And this is where you have an opportunity for a new choice, such as saying, I can't control the variance, but let me just play my 6 big blinds I have left perfectly because I know how to, push fold 6 big blinds. Many players have been in tournaments where they were down to a few big blinds and came back and won, right? Like Joe Cata had called off for 3 big blinds at the main event final table with Jack 5 offsuit or something, and he won the tournament. We all know that if we just continue to make good decisions, good things can happen. And if they do or not is not in our direct control. So ultimately, we don't want to waste time at the table feeling dejected, feeling like it's hopeless. We really just want to play the next hand well. So bringing the awareness in, recognizing what happens automatically now, and then choosing to kind of adjust that for how we think would be optimal is really what overcoming tilt is all about. And it's the same at, away from the table, right? Like maybe you don't want to reach for the beer on Sunday night at 2 o'clock in the morning, or the joint or Netflix or whatever it is, that maybe you don't want to turn to the vice because you feel wired and tired. Maybe you'd rather, put on the headphones, do the sleep track, get to bed at a reasonable hour and wake up and study the things you got wrong yesterday. Maybe that would change your entire approach to your career. So just another way of wording this, which is don't be a slave to your default lines. We all know what a default line is in poker, right? It's like the line we usually take with a hand. Like, do we 3-bet? Do we bet small on the flop? Do we bet big on the turn? It's how we're going to play the hand. So in every situation in life, we have a default line, like the thoughts we have, the habit we do, the action we take. And when we increase awareness and we learn to regulate our nervous system, we learn to calm our body down, we can start to write a new story. And that's really the key takeaway. Whatever you're doing now, if it's not good, maybe you've had anger issues your whole life. That's okay. Like, obviously, it's probably not fun, but if you start to become aware of that and actually work on it, it will get better. There's basically almost no one walking the planet who has issues they couldn't improve. So whatever your issues are, whatever it's injustice or anger, depression, or difficulty to focus, all you have to do is set an intention to work on it and then actually work on it, and don't beat yourself up about not already being perfect, and it's going to improve. And that's the kind of thing that we've been helping people with for the last 6 or 7 years in Poker Mindset Mastery. So we've got a lot of success stories. This brings us to the 4th point in the presentation, which is all about changing your limiting beliefs. We talked about this a little bit when we talked about your peer group. And if your peer group has certain beliefs, you're going to be more likely to hold those beliefs yourself. So if you're surrounded by a bunch of people who think like poker's dead and like games are not beatable anymore and blah, 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 how are you going to feel about your career? Probably not that great. If you're around a bunch of people who are pessimistic, who are negative, who don't believe in self-improvement, don't believe in growth mindset, probably want to get some new peers. A lot of people, they don't realize they're standing in their own way. You have to be able to call bullshit on yourself. And one of the key areas is when you make excuses for yourself, because the difference between a player who achieves a lot and a player who doesn't manage to achieve the same thing, who had the same goal, is that one of those players continually finds a solution and the other player is willing to believe in their setbacks, right? When you're solution focused, when something goes wrong, you're like, okay, this went wrong. What can I do about it so that doesn't repeat? How can I improve so I can be better next time? It's a very logical process. When things will go wrong, right? Like you will make mistakes. We sort of covered that. Same in business and being an entrepreneur and in any area of life, right? Fitness, you're gonna have setbacks. But like turning that obstacle into the way, turning into the path that you walk, like letting it make you better, that's what is going to make you a champion, going to make you a winner, and going to make you have a higher win rate than other people who take it as evidence of why they can't, why they won't hit their goals, why they won't reach so far. So this is most insidious in the phrase that I'm going to say now, which is a phrase I very much hate. This is just how I am. I want you to look out for opportunities in your life where you hear yourself either saying that or thinking. Because when you say like, this is just how I am, or this is just how it is, you're basically giving away your power, right? So say you struggle to sleep after your sessions. That's an example we've gone back to a lot. If you just believe that that's how life is, like that's how being a poker player is, that's what your reality is, I can't, I can't get to sleep after my poker session. My mind is wired. I need to spend 3 hours watching Netflix to calm down. Well, then you will continue to have that experience because you don't believe there's another route that would be possible. Does that make sense? Like, it's pretty obvious. If you don't believe things can be better than they are, they won't be, not unless you hit the jackpot, right? So you need to be really careful about things like this because a lot of people who are dealing with depression or dealing with like attention focus difficulties, if you look deeply enough, you'll find they have a belief that things can't change. They have a belief that things can't get better. They think there's something wrong with them, something wrong with their brain. And if you believe something like that, if you hold it in your mind, you will make it true. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when you open your mind to the possibility that if I keep experimenting and keep tweaking things and keep, learning and reading and applying myself, working with different mentors, working with people who've had, situations like mine and they were able to improve them. If you keep that kind of a mindset and keep looking for solutions, ultimately you're going to find some. And how much things will improve will just depend on the effort and a little bit of luck. But things will improve from where they are now, but not if you don't believe they can. That's like pretty clear. So the takeaway here is to find solutions and not excuses. The ego, it likes to be right. So when we get kind of tired of being disappointed that we can't change, we start to believe it's impossible because then we get to be right about that. It makes us feel like sort of empowered in what we can't do. Like, oh yeah, I can't do that. I can't focus for long. I can't do that. I'm just not good at that. I'm not good at like this kind of stuff. I can't figure out, this new software. I'm not good at computer software. It takes the weight off, you stop feeling bad about yourself and like, yeah, I just can't do that. It's a coping strategy. Again, a maladaptive coping strategy. If you believe in these things and you'll create a stronger identity, you'll remind yourself every day, this is how I am. Like, these are my limitations. And like, when you fight for your limitations, guess what? You get to keep them. So I don't want any of you guys to be unnecessarily limited. I don't want you guys to hold yourself back. So just learn to call bullshit on yourself. Look out for areas where you're setting a boundary. Like, I can't do better than this. And inquire, is that really true? Have I ever found someone to maybe help me who was stuck in a similar position as me and now isn't anymore? Because if I can find that person, I know what one person can do, another person can do. So the reason we spend time on this is because it's one of the most common differences between players who make it and players who get stuck at a certain level. It really comes down to their beliefs, because people who believe in themselves and they believe success at a certain level is possible for them, they keep working and finding the ways to get there. But of course, you're not going to keep doing that work. Of course, you're not going to put the effort in that's required if you don't think it's possible for you. Of course, your motivation it'll end at a certain point. It won't feel like it makes sense to go anymore because I can't do that anyway. Does that make sense? So a little quote picture from the Poker Mindset course, just a reminder to be congruent with your values, not your past. Similarly, like when we talk about not reinforcing identities of limitation, you want to take action in alignment with your values, in alignment with what you believe is right and best for you, not just like what you've historically done. It's very easy to look back at the past and say, okay, well, this is all I can do. And sometimes, as I said, it can be a relief because you stop putting too much pressure on yourself for not already being perfect. However, the strategy that you need to implement in order to get to like an elite level is to figure out what it takes to get there and just do it. And it doesn't matter if you haven't done that before. It only matters if you're going to start doing that from this moment forward. And this is where the rubber meets the road, routines and schedules. I promise you, I'm going to do my best to make it more fun than it sounds. And all of these things, they were me too. So no need to feel bad. It's very common. It's very common in a lot of areas, not just poker. So this right here that I'm showing you guys, this is the actual GTO Mind Planner that we use inside of Poker Mindset Mastery. It's basically just an Excel spreadsheet that allows you to figure out the different things that you do with your time and kind of start to plot them and start to learn where your time goes and how to make yourself effective. Poker players often have a difficult relationship with scheduling because generally the places in your life where you had a schedule was a schedule you didn't want. It was like you had a job that was just to make money to get by, and you had a work schedule, and that was like cutting out of your free time, right? Or you had to go to school and you had to go to classes. Maybe they weren't all classes you wanted to go to. It's jobs, it's school, it's university, it's chores, work, whatever. It's often been something that was put upon us by somebody else. And deciding to be a poker player is in many ways an ultimate act of claiming your freedom, saying, you know what, I'm going to spend my time how I want to. I'm going to make it on the back of my own hard work, my own ability. So it's sort of like you're kind of giving the finger to the system in a way, saying, I'm going to do this my way. Well, that doesn't mean you shouldn't use a schedule, because ultimately doing things your way could still be better with a plan, right? And the big difference is you're going to make the plan that helps you have the awesome life that you want. And when you see it that way, when you realize that having a structure, having a schedule actually creates freedom for you, it gives you the time to actually do all the stuff you want to do, it starts to feel much better. Like, oh, wow, I can actually spend time with my significant other, or looking for one if I don't have one. I can spend time with my family. I can spend time playing poker. I can spend time studying all the billions of things that I still think I need to get better at, right? Like 3-bet pots, 4-bet pots, playing out of position, playing in position, playing this stack size, playing that. There's so many spots in poker. For sure, you have a laundry list of hands that you've marked that you haven't gotten through. You have many topics you'd love to spend time on. Well, how do you not always feel like you're falling behind? And how do you actually spend time on the most important things that would help you get as much better as you can, as efficiently as possible, while also having good health, having good meals, having physical exercise, like getting sunlight, having a life away from poker? Like, how are you gonna make that work? Well, it's always going to be a journey. It's always going to be, you cannot invent time. So you're always going to have to be taken from one place to support another. But at least if you have a map, at least if you have a plan, you can improve week to week. And this is one of the biggest things that we see turns players from sort of mediocre to just really making consistent progress. When guys start to, in our team, all our players post this exact schedule in their blog every week. Maybe not 100%, but like something equivalent to it. And once they start doing that, it's like every week just becomes an opportunity to learn. Like, okay, I tried to plan like this worked, this didn't work, let me tweak it. And the thing that most people don't realize is that, like, you don't want to throw out the whole process when something goes wrong. When you're a scientist, right, you tweak one variable, you tweak one thing. Okay, did that make an improvement? Okay, no. All right, let me try tweaking this. Okay, did that make an improvement? Yes. Okay, let's keep that. Let's change this. And it's like iteration is how you get there. It's not like, okay, let me try this. Didn't work. Throw it out. Try this. Let me try this person's system. Didn't work. Throw it out. Let me try this. That is just a mess. So by iterating week to week, month to month, day to day, changing little things over time to adjust and tweak, that's how you find your way. You find what works for you, which might be unique, but there's going to be a lot of data for you to draw from to find your own unique way and find what works for you. There's also going to be a lot of commonalities by learning what's worked for other people. So this is sort of like the map of your time. You can do this in a Google Calendar. You can do it in a paper notebook. It doesn't matter, but give yourself a map. Because if you don't have a map, you never know, like, am I spending my time in the right way? If you're just waking up, like checking your phone, like, oh, maybe I'll attend this webinar today. I mean, you're just not doing the easy stuff that could get you returns. If you just started to plan your time and like put your study blocks on, sessions on, and like know when those were, you'll immediately notice an increase in your professionalism. And when you start doing that, you start tracking your sleep, you start all these little things. Now I want to study more, start to see myself more as a professional, less like a, casual or someone who doesn't take their career seriously. I start to like actually think, maybe I can play a higher ABI. Maybe I can get as good as those regs. Maybe those regs aren't so much better. Like things start to change when you start to treat yourself and your career with more respect. I'm going to move on a little bit. This is the same habit tracker that we use, similar to scheduling your time, just scheduling the things that you want to do for yourself. What I put here is low bar and never miss twice. I'm going to explain these concepts very quickly. Low bar means that you set goals for yourself that you can realistically achieve. Because in the spirit of perfectionism, what most people do is they go from like not exercising at all to like, I'm going to work out 5 times a week. And then they don't do it, and then they hate themselves, and then they give up on that for a month. This is not ideal, right? So what we want to do is set goals. Like, say you don't meditate. If you say I'm going to meditate 20 minutes a day, every day, you're probably not. And you're probably going to get discouraged when it doesn't happen. But if you say I'm going to meditate 5 minutes a day, like first thing in the morning, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to set my alarm 5 minutes. You could do that. Like you could realistically go from 0 to 5 minutes of meditation a day very easily because it's a low bar. And if you do that for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, now it's easy if I want to go to 10 minutes because I'm already doing 5. The best book on habits that exists is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he talks about like, if you go to the gym 365 times, you will be in shape. Don't worry. Like even if you just go in for the first 2 weeks and just look around and like maybe do one exercise, but you go every day, you can't help it. You'll eventually start like doing a good job. So you don't have to be such a cliche. You don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to start to be great. So just setting a low goal and allowing yourself to be consistent. Because when you're consistent, you get the results. It's just a matter of time. But when you're like, oh, I get super inspired and I try to do a lot all at once, then I get burnt out and I stop doing anything, you just end up in these cycles of like motivation, hating yourself, feeling like it's possible, feeling like it's impossible. Like there's enough variance in poker without putting yourself on an emotional roller coaster because your habits are great and they're bad and they're better and they're worse. So just easy goals, build consistent pattern, incremental adjustments. I promise you, if you do this, you're going to feel so much better and it will show in your results. This is something like we have tons of data on. It's like all the guys in our stable. It's like everybody comes in, you know, flares of motivation, flares of burnout. We adjust them for this, and then just the improvement becomes so much more measured and reliable. And I do this in my own life as well. And never miss twice is just a simple way. If you're trying to build a new habit, you know, shit's going to happen. Don't get too discouraged if you miss a meditation or you miss a breathing exercise or whatever. Just continue. You know, if you didn't do it one day, make sure you don't miss it the next day. Simple, but it's like an easy rule to remember, right? If you never miss twice, then, you know, worst you can do is 50%, you know, and if you do something 180 times this year instead of 0, that's still a massive improvement. So that is kind of like the high level overview of all the stuff. I could, like I said, I could geek out on all these topics for, you know, pretty much an unlimited amount of time. I've made my life about this for the last 7 or 8 years. I want to end by talking about like kind of the different ways that we can go further together if you guys are interested, because I recognize a lot of these topics are deep, right? We kind of scratched the surface, and I hope that I've given you guys things you can take away. I hope this presentation has encouraged you to, you know, think in different ways about familiar situations and start to, you know, see possibilities or perhaps before you didn't see them. The most simple way you guys can get started is, a lot of you guys are Preflop Academy members in the Discord. You might not already be using the tool Preflop Academy. So as you guys know, they have a sale on right now for Black Friday. Anyone who signs up for an annual subscription to Preflop Academy is going to get a 25% discount, which is pretty great. I personally use Preflop Academy. I study most every session I'm going to play. I warm up with like 30 minutes Preflop Academy. I also personally started working with Kevin Rabichow, who I think is one of the best tournament coaches in the world right now. And this was something he showed me, was that like we did database analysis and he kind of showed me some areas I was leaking, and his instructions, and this is kind of coming from one of the goats in my opinion, is okay, so you're not squeezing enough in the button and cutoff, drill those spots in Preflop Academy before you play, you know, different stack sizes, get different looks and different feels, you know, ICM, no ICM, whatever, but just put yourself in that position and just go through it and drill it until it becomes second knowledge. Another thing he taught me was that by doing it as a warm-up, you just want to do as many spots as possible and let your mind kind of learn on its own. And then when you do deep study, when it's not a warm-up, that's when you want to drill into the solutions and really like look for kind of patterns and things like that, try to memorize. But when you're just warming up to play, just drill like 50 spots. But, you know, just, okay, I got this wrong, let's just move on. That was at least his approach, and it's been working well. So a little bit of a tangent, but if you guys are not yet Preflop Academy subscribers, definitely I would recommend you to take advantage of the annual plan. I love the product. I use it myself. And if you do that, you will get a free 30-minute mindset session with Rupert, who's a coach in my team. He's a very good coach. He has helped, if you guys follow me on social media, you might have seen just yesterday, I made a post about a player of ours at PokerSpirit who started out playing micro stakes 18 months ago. He was playing 4 cent, 8 cent, and he is now playing 25.50. That's 18 months. We took a player from micro stakes to some of the highest stakes online to run. And Rupert is his mental game coach. So I feel if he's good enough for one of our best players, and he's good enough for you guys as well. And I really strongly recommend you guys to take advantage of that, because I've let him coach me before. He's a fantastic coach. Gonna take a little sip of water. So I don't know how many of you guys are already members of Preflop Academy, but if you're not and you're playing tournaments, then definitely start there. I think it's ludicrous to be not taking the low-hanging fruit, and getting better at preflop is that sort of like low-hanging fruit. And with software like Preflop Academy, it's easy to do. We also have a deal this Black Friday on my mindset course. So if you guys want to get more of sort of some of the stuff I've been showing, the mindset course is very complete. We've been using it with players at BitB. We've been using it with players in my team in PokerSpirit. And we've been doing this for like 3 or 4 years now with the course. And like Powell's done it. Many of the guys who are in this community have done it. And every year we do a Black Friday sale. It's basically the only sale we do, to be honest. So it's kind of now or never if you want to get a discount. And we're giving 50% off. We probably won't do 50% off next year, but I don't know. Next year is a long time in the future. So I would recommend, if you think, you know, I'd like to go further with this mindset stuff, like some of the things you said have been interesting. The code is Black Friday. You guys can save 50%. You also get a free month of Preflop Academy, and you can stack those. So if you do the annual plan with the 25% discount and you buy Poker Mindset Mastery, you'll get like 13 months or whatever. So you can still get both discounts. But I do recommend that if something I've said is like struck a chord in you and you want to go deeper with this work, do this deal, because once it's gone, it's over. You know, we don't have other sales. It's 50%. It's a massive sale. So the deal is good until midnight on Friday, and the code is Black Friday. Technically, it's a one-day sale, but the discount code already works. So if you guys are interested, you can already just go to the website and use that code Black Friday, and it will work, and you can check it out, and you can be doing the course later this evening. So if that's something that is interesting to you, I would encourage you to do that, because the deal is only till Friday. And last but certainly not least, I mentioned it a few times, my main thing that I do these days is running PokerSpirit, which is a staking and coaching organization. We specifically coach guys in 5-card PLO. You guys might have heard of seeing 5-card PLO added to some of the added to GG about a year ago, and then there's a lot of games on apps and things like this. It's a new opportunity in poker. It's a new area where people haven't had as much time to study and get really good yet. So there's still like pretty big achievable win rates. As I mentioned, we took a player from micro stakes to 25-50 in the last year and a half. We have a number of success stories like that. We have about 35 guys on our team from all around the world, and about half of those guys are playing 5-10 or higher. So we've got a number of guys at 10-20, a number of guys at 5-10, loads of guys at 2-4-3-6, and all those guys are making, you know, pretty significant money. So you know, we do start guys out at, you know, even the lowest stakes to learn. It's, for us, it's really about finding the right fit. You know, if we feel like this is somebody we want to work with, it doesn't really matter how good you are or not at PLO. If you've ever played it before, I mean, we've taken guys from no limit playing, you know, $50 no limit to 10-20 PLO 5. What really matters is having kind of the stuff we talked about today, the approach that's going to lead to success. Because if you have the approach that's going to lead to success, you just add time and we're going to get there. So that's really the kind of people that we're looking for. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to post some links here in the chat for you guys who might be interested in that. I have one more thing for you guys. I have a free gift. So here are my links. You will see there's a link to the presentation. There's a link to the Black Friday sale. As I said, the discount is already active for you guys who attended here today. There is a free meditation. Let's go into the last slide here today. As you guys know, Black Friday is historically like a holiday that takes place in the US the day after Christmas, or sorry, the day after Thanksgiving. And it's, give me a second here, guys. So Black Friday is a holiday that takes place the day after Thanksgiving, and there's lots of, this is kind of like when all the shopping discounts come out. And this is primarily where it comes from, is day after Thanksgiving. So since we're in the honor of Black Friday and kind of giving thanks, I wanted to give you guys something for your time and participation today. I really appreciate it. So I figured I would give you guys a meditation for free. You guys can access that here on the left. Doesn't look like, says maybe my presentation link doesn't work. I don't know what to say. Does it work? Yeah, it works. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have questions now, I have plenty of time and I'm happy to answer them. I may just need a drink though. It's a lot of talking. So yeah, the free meditation is from the Poker Mindset course. If you guys haven't meditated before, you're interested, it's a great habit to add. It'll help you with all the mindset work that you're doing. And it's just you put in your email address and you can download the meditation on the next page. The application is a type form. We are pretty selective, so definitely like take your time if you're filling that out, if you're serious about working together in that capacity. And otherwise, you guys can take advantage of the discount if you want to get the course. And as you know, we have the Pre-Flop Academy discount as well. So I meditate every day, pretty much. Today I did like 11 minutes. I'm trying to be, I went through a period where I wasn't meditating every day. So I try to get back to building a consistent practice, and then I might start extending the times. But I have sort of other habits I've been really consistent with. Like I'm doing the cold showers every single time I take a shower. I'm doing breathing exercises every morning. I'm doing cardio 4 times a week. I'm doing stretching 4 times a week. I'm doing gym 3 times a week. And my physical health is sort of like my main focus area at the moment. But yeah, I've been doing the meditation like every day, but sometimes just 5 or 10 minutes. I would like to get a longer meditation in. I think it'll happen. But right now, as I said, I'm sort of like focusing on my own physical health. And that's like my main focus area at the moment. Because I'll tell you, playing Scoop, playing WSOP, playing W Coop, like it's too much sitting. You need to move. You need to get a standing desk. You need to get like a treadmill mat. You guys, I don't know how old you guys are watching this, but I'm like 37 now, and you cannot sit for 12 hours a day. Your body doesn't like it. So Bill asks, how would you recommend post-session study for sites that are HUD-less and don't offer hand histories? I mean, I think actually just reviewing your hand histories is sort of a lazy way to study anyway. I think it's kind of like we study the spots because we're a perfectionist and we want to know if we did it right or wrong. But the best way to study is to start with the most common spots, right? So, I mean, if you're playing cash games or tournaments, it's probably going to be, you know, big blind opening ranges, button defense ranges, like how to play pots in that situation at different stack sizes that you face commonly. And then like looking at the next most common spot. If you can find the most common spot where you make a lot of mistakes, that's what you should study. So if you have trouble defending a big blind, like that's a good place to start. If you have trouble, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend time studying, you know, check raise river spots because they just don't happen that often. You know, if you're not already an expert in like all the pre-flop spots, for example, you shouldn't even be looking at too many flop spots. If you're not expert in flops, you don't need to start be looking at all these turns and rivers. So I would try to find like what I did when I worked with Kevin Rabichaw is he looked at my database and he found like the most common spots I was leaking. And then I looked at those in order of importance, like how often do they happen? And that's what I studied. And I mean, I would study with Pre-Flop Academy. I would study with some sort of solver like Pio, and I would study with our Pre-Flop Academy, I believe is coming out with their own post-flop solver pretty soon as well. And I would study with, you know, videos in those topics, ICM tournament. If you're playing tournaments, I would study with an ICM calculator. What do you consider the most important thing to get started, especially if your schedule can't be regular? I guess it depends, like, when you say get started, like which area do you mean? And if you don't know, then I would figure out which area was most important for me to improve. And then I would look at the things I should do to improve that, if that makes sense. So like as I said, for me personally, I really want to make improvements around my physical health. So the most important habits for me were stretching, was going to the gym, was doing some cardio. If I really wanted to improve, my mental health, well, those things are linked, obviously, but then I might start with meditation, with breathing exercises. If I really want to improve my final table ICM, I would start with Hold'em resource calculator. You know what I mean? So kind of asking yourself, what is the priority in my life? What area of my life do I want to improve? So I know that there are people who do this, who go do database analysis, and there's for every coach there is who has a name and like is perhaps kind of on the more expensive side. There are other coaches who do relatively similar work who maybe don't have the recognition and they do it at a lower price. Obviously, I don't personally know because I haven't worked with too many no limit strategy coaches personally. But I imagine, like, I'm in CNC Poker, which maybe you guys have heard of. It's they do webinars and stuff on strategy as well, and I know they have coaches. I think Powell's in that as well. I imagine in their roster, maybe Powell can answer that question. Maybe he knows somebody, but I don't personally know like all the different strategy coaches for tournament poker or for cash games especially. But when it comes to areas of life, I generally say pick two. So like if you're looking at your life, and there's many areas, right? There's like finances, there's relationship with your family, there's relationship with your friends, there's your poker game, there's your physical health. Like pick two areas that you're going to work on. So if you recognize, okay, I want to improve at poker and I want to improve my health. Those two things can go hand in hand. If you try to do 10 things at once, it's going to be difficult. But if you're looking at your schedule and you're like, all right, I'm going to go for a walk every morning before I start my work or whatever I'm doing, so get some activity. Then I'm going to have like a block that I study every day. Maybe it has to be at different days if you have other commitments in your life, but putting that on the schedule, like when you're going to study. If you studied 2 hours last week, all you got to do is 3 this week, and you're already like starting to make an improvement, right? So setting a realistic goal that you can stick to week over week and like tweaking it, as I said. Same thing for movement, right? You don't need to start back at the gym 5 times a week. You can just start out by going for a walk, after each meal for 20 minutes. And if you get a tracker like this, you can see like, okay, my activity level is a 4. Today it's a 4.5. That's an improvement. Last week it was a 6. This week it's a 6.5. That's an improvement. And you just bit by bit, but at least you're on the path. You know what I mean? You're starting to schedule more study sessions. You're starting to be more active. And when you have data, you don't go backwards. You're like, hey, I already got from a 4 to a 7. I'm not going back to a 5. You know what I mean? If I can't get to an 8 yet, okay, I'll stay at a 7 for a while. Maybe I'll fall to a 6.5, but I'm not going back to where it was. Does that make sense? Yeah, I imagine 8 stars is probably great. I imagine he might also be expensive though. When you said thinking about things that are in our control, what is the best way to practice staying in that zone instead of going into universe is against me type of thing? Okay, so you just have to decide not to be a victim. When you say universe is against me, the first word that comes to mind is victim. And it's very clear that like the victim mentality is like the most defeating mindset there is. And once you think, it's so cliche, but like if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If once you start to think like, oh, I can't win, like I suck and everything's against me, and like once you go into that negative worldview, your doors close. You stop looking for solutions. Why would you look for a solution if you don't think it's possible? If you expect to lose, you'll actually subconsciously find ways to punt. And this is the sickest thing. Like if you're a tournament player and you really think the universe is against you, you might find yourself like clicking too fast and doing something. And I mean, why did I do that? And it might have been a really bad play that's going to cost you to bust. And it could be because your ego wants to be right about how unfortunate your life is, how unlucky you are. So like, if I can find a way to lose again, I feel right. And I protect myself from the letdown of it actually happening to me. At least I take back some control and I punted it off. But like, this is obviously really bad, right? This is not what we want to be doing. So you just have to be able to like I said, like call bullshit on yourself. There's many ways to kind of bring that awareness in. Part of it is setting an intention in the morning or before your session. Like, I will not allow my mind to go to the dark side, right? If it does, I will bring it back. If you don't know how to do that, I'd strongly recommend you to start meditating, because one of the practices in meditation that you do is you set an intention to focus on your breath. And then your mind will start to feed you thoughts, like, what am I going to have for lunch today? And you have to recognize, like, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm going to go back to my breath. And it's the same for negativity. Your mind starts to feed you thoughts you might have thought since you were a child, you know, like, who knows, like maybe your teacher was mean to you, maybe your friend picked on you or whatever, but like there's a pattern to your thoughts. And when negative thoughts start to come up, you recognize, like, oh, okay, this is where I usually go unconscious, and you start to feel sorry for myself and start to pity myself and think that like everything's worthless or hopeless. I'm not going to do that. Let me set that aside. Let me set that pattern aside and just be present. I just focus on my breath, just focus on the next hand. You just choose, like, it's okay. If you're trying to change your thinking, you're going to hear your like negative thinking, but the difference is now you're not going to really believe it. It's still there. You're like, oh, okay, there's my narrator inside my mind being negative, being toxic, being, you know, victim mentality, whatever. That's nice. You know, it's like you can see it, you can hear it. It's like a telephone call. You don't have to answer it. And that's the difference, creating that separation, that space. There's a beautiful book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It really helps kind of explain this sort of idea of being able to hear your mind, but you start to see the thoughts as optional. And that's really the key. I mean, we teach this in my course in Poker Mindset Mastery. We really help you start to see like that thoughts that you have are options. They're like your default line. But if they're not serving you, you can like let them go and replace them with thoughts that are empowering, with thoughts that are going to help you get the results you want. I'm sorry, one other point is like, you can set the intention, but you also need to be able to stay vigilant. So, I mean, one exercise I know people have done is like, say you have a habit of complaining or being negative, you can like take a rubber band and put it on your wrist. And every time you catch yourself complaining or being negative or having, you know, self-pity, you just snap the rubber band and then change it to the other hand. And this is like a pattern interrupt. So it stops you from just staying in the funk. Like, it's okay if you think a negative thought. It's okay if you believe it for 2 minutes, but let's not believe it for 2 hours. Let's not go to bed unhappy, wake up miserable, and then make people around us miserable. Because then you're like perpetuating what you don't want. Does that make sense? Sorry, guys, I know I'm looking to the left. I just kind of realized I got the chat over here. So I'm like talking to who knows Leaf over here, but I see that you guys are here. So, but yeah, I hope that makes sense. If you have a follow-up question, let me know. Yeah, I mean, if you, Kelly, if you do the, I know that Rupert has done some stuff like this in the past. Like, he's not a expert in database analysis, but his helps some players like kind of find the key areas for them to study, because he's also a former poker player. So I'm not sure, but I think if you take advantage of either of the deals that we're offering for Black Friday, getting on that call with him, he might be able to help you make a study plan. I mean, he's done that. He doesn't play PLO5, but he's helped all of our players in our stable who he's worked with develop, you know, study plans of what the most important areas are for them to study. And often just kind of like talking about your game and talking about where you feel uncertain, you're able to bring those areas to the surface. Certainly, you know, doing the database analysis in PT4 or Hold'em Manager is another level. There are people who specifically do that, but if you're just looking to get started and kind of feel like you're working on your mindset, you also have a sensible study approach, I think Rupert would be able to help you with that. The book was The Untethered Soul. Yeah, if you The Power of Now is another excellent book about working with the mind and your thoughts. And The Untethered Soul is basically like the power of now, but written very like matter of fact and to the point. Whereas The Power of Now is written like very esoteric, you know, so it's a little bit more difficult to understand. But they're both great books. And you know, Paul's done like a Vipassana meditation retreat, which is like very hardcore, you know, I'm currently working through a book called The Mind Illuminated, which is like a kind of a Buddhist neuroscientist's approach to meditation. There's a lot of levels you can get to with meditation, but honestly, the first one and the one that inspired me in the beginning to make my poker mindset course, the one that's going to be on sale this week, it was this realization. It was that like my thoughts aren't true. And that changed everything for me, you know, because for my whole life, like I believed everything I thought. So if I thought like someone didn't like me, they didn't like me. If I thought I wasn't good enough, I wasn't good enough. If I thought something, I like unquestionably just believed my thoughts. I thought I was right about everything. And when I started to meditate and I started to hear my thoughts and be like, whoa, that's a messed up thought. Like, that's probably not very helpful. Like, I shouldn't think that way toward myself. That's not very nice. When I started to catch these things, it was like my whole life completely changed. It was like the single biggest turning point of my entire life, I think, was the epiphany that like the voice in your head is not who you are and all your thoughts are not true. You're like, you're not the narrator. You're the one listening to the narrator, and you can sort of start to edit, you know, you can start to edit the script. And when you realize this, you get to be confident if you weren't confident before. You get to be happy if you weren't happy before. You get to have goals if you didn't have goals before. You get to break free of all the reasons why you can't and all the reasons why your life isn't what you want it to be, and just start creating the life that you want, because you realize I can edit the code. Like, it's not written in stone. And this is like what I want for anyone else doing my course, and for anyone, you know, anyone on the same path and anyone dealing with the same challenges. This is what I want for you guys, to be able to write your own stories, whether it's in poker or anywhere. So I think it's a really underrated topic, probably because it's not sexy, you know? Oh, don't believe everything you think. Like, what? But I mean, it's a game changer.
All right, guys. Well, 45 minutes turned into 80 minutes. I'm not surprised, to be honest, because I knew when I made these slides, there's no way we're getting through 17 slides in 45 minutes. But yeah, thank you guys for sticking to the end. I hope you took something away from this presentation. I hope it was helpful for you. And yeah, the links are in the chat if you want to take advantage of any of the sales, you want to follow us on Instagram. And also, if you guys, one important point, if you guys are diehard tournament players, but you might have friends who play cash games, or your friends who play PLO, you know, you're in the poker world, you might have people who you know might like to play for us. Please do let them know about the opportunity. Let them know, like, hey, I did this webinar with this guy on Mindset. He seemed pretty cool if you think so. And they're staking players and coaching players for PLO 5. So I know you play PLO. Maybe you want to reach out to them, see if that's a fit. You know, no harm. We just talk to them, see if it's a mutually good opportunity. So if you have friends in the poker world who you think could benefit from that, please do put us in contact. And yeah, same thing for the Mindset course and Preflop Academy, right? Like, go help people, right? If you think something's great, tell your friends. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you for your attention. And yeah, happy Thanksgiving. I don't know how many Americans we have on here. Probably not too many, but happy, happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays.